Hi, I'm James the Light Guy, and today we're going to do an experiment to find out which of these sterilizing solutions works best. Our experiment involves collecting bacterial samples off of the keyboard and using these TSA plates and our incubator to grow cultures. Our bacterial samples will be done before and after sterilization through each of these boxes. Let's explain the experiment. First, each of our sterilization methods has been given a unique identifier. Box A, box B, etc. Next, we'll be using a 3-digit identifier on each of the dishes. The first digit is going to represent which box or sterilization method was used on the dish. The second is going to identify which cycle it is, whether it was a 1 being before sterilization or a 2 for after sterilization. The third digit is going to tell us which dish in the series it is. In this case, it will be either a 1 or a 2. To explain this more, we're going to take one sample for one petri dish and take a swab from a key. And that will be A11. We'll take a second swab off the same key and do another petri dish. That will be A12. We will then remove the key from the keyboard and sterilize it in box A. After that, take a swab to a third petri dish, which will be A21, the 2 in the middle being after sterilization, and then take a fourth swab of the key to make a fourth dish, which will be A22, box A, post-sterilization, second petri dish. We'll do that with each of these boxes or sterilization methods, since we're going to be using 70% isopropyl for our box E or sterilization method E, and that will give us 4, 8, 12, 16, but we'll only be doing 1 each of the isopropyl because I'd like to leave 2 untouched as controls. And that will give us 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18, and 2 controls, 20 plates total in the incubator. We'll give that 24 hours at human body temperature around 37 degrees Celsius, and using our microscope, see how much bacteria has grown. So, first thing we need to do is open up these plates and label them all. Now that all of our petri dishes have been labeled, the labels are on the bottom of the dish so that if we were to lose the lid, the label stays with the bacterial cultures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all except the controls, which are going to stay over there, and move D, C, B, and E, and we're going to focus on box A first, which is our big box. So first we have A11. This is pre-sterilization sample number 1. We're going to take one of our sterile swabs and we're going to pick a key on the keyboard. I'm going to start with the X key. So we're going to get a good rub of the X key. And then gently drag it across our A in a plus sign. This is now trash. Our A11 is now complete. We will put that aside and do our A12. We're going to repeat the same steps as before. Get a good swab of the X key, the same key we used before. And now that is trash. Next, we will simply remove the X key from the keyboard. Pop it into our sterilizer box. Which might be easier said than done with how small this key is. You'll have to give me just a moment. We'll use this as our base plate because it is also shiny. We have the top of the key facing up directly toward the light. We'll seal this off. Don't mind that cable. And we're going to run this on for 1 minute. All right, it's been 1 minute. We'll grab a new set of sterile swabs and grab our box A post-sterilization sample 1. And put that sample aside. Next, sample 2 post-sterilization. And there we go. We're done with this key and all of box A's samples. So we'll put that aside with the control, and we'll leave that in box A. Now all we have to do is repeat those steps for all the other sterilization methods. Now that we have all of our samples collected, we can put them in the incubator, and I'm going to set up a GoPro, and hopefully we'll get a time lapse of the next 24 hours. We're back in the studio. The cultures have been in the incubator for 3 days now, and I just pulled them all out. I was planning on using the microscope, but it really isn't necessary for these. First, let's take a look at our control samples. As you can see, nothing has grown. Now, let's move on to our pre-sterilization rows. So, all of the Series 1 were pre-sterilization method. I think that goes back there. So, as we can see, all of our keyboard samples grew something in that plus-shaped streak that we wiped the pad or the swab on. So all of the keys were contaminated. Filthy. Now let's take a closer look at each of the individual sterilizing methods. So group A was the DIY sterilizer box. Give me just a moment, I'm going to put that in the background. So box A, post-sterilization of the key. You can see the marks we made with the swab, but nothing grew. So 1 minute in the sterilizer was enough to completely sterilize the surface of the key. Actually, it looks like after 3 days we may have had something starting to try and grow. But again, that was 3 days. We'll call that a 95% success. All right, let's switch over to box B. Box B was, of course, our center port UV sterilizer box. And we once again have 0 contaminants. A 100% success from center port. Moving on to box C. Was our UV sterilizing disinfecting coating machine. As I had previously said, this box is fake. It uses just plastic tubes and cheap blue LEDs, and as a result, well, you can see our pre-sterilization and post-sterilization are no different. Our contamination remained the same on both samples. So once again, this particular device is 100% proven fake. 0 score given on the sterilization. Next, let's do box D. This is the 59S LED sterilizer. It was the only LED sterilizing system that we tested this round, using UVC LEDs and a mirrored bottom. This was supplied to us by Carmel Medical Supplies in Carmel, California. You can see here, it is clean. You might think over there was something starting to grow, but that's just from where I pressed it really hard with the swab. So 100% sterilization on that sample. And on this sample. So that is a very nice sterilizer box. Lastly, our sterilization method E, isopropyl alcohol, 70%. As we saw, pre-sterilization was pretty grody, and after a 1-second swab, well, not ideal. Looks like we managed to get a single little growth culture going. So once again, I would give this an 85% score. Again, a higher percentage isopropyl would have done a much better job, or just leaving the surface wet with the isopropyl for longer than the 1-second wipe may have also done a better job. But in this particular experiment, with what we did and how long we used, it wasn't perfect. Like I said, I was going to use the microscope to show you close-ups of everything, but it really wasn't necessary. It looks like all of our methods, besides box C, the fake coating machine, did a good enough job to sterilize the surface of the key on the keyboard. That same method can be applied to cell phones, car keys, sunglasses. Anything that can fit inside one of these boxes can be sterilized in the time provided. I do, of course, recommend that if you have oddly shaped items or items that overlap, like car keys, that you move them around and maybe run it for a second time to make sure that every surface is sterilized. But in any case, that's all I have for today's video. I hope that you found it informative. I know that I learned a lot from this video. If you guys did, please give me that thumbs up, like, share the video, make sure that everyone else knows which boxes are useful, which ones to avoid. And follow me on Instagram and Facebook. If you want to support the channel and make more videos like this possible, visit our Patreon at patreon.com/JamesTheLightGuy and throw a couple dollars in the hat. It helps fund these experiments. This was about $40 worth of cultures, and I had to buy the incubator and got the microscope that we didn't wind up using, but the channel does have a very limited budget for these things right now, and I'd love to do more experiments, especially if you guys have recommendations, leave them in the comments for things to do in future videos. I forgot what I was going to say, so here's my outro. Thanks for watching.